The City of Virginia Beach is now in session. This is our formal meeting format. At this time, I ask that everyone in attendance please silence their electronic devices and phones. I ask my colleagues to acknowledge the presence on the voting board. At this time, I'm asking everyone to join me in a moment of silence. Please rise as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice to have that group in this one.
We will now proceed with our awards and recognitions. Mrs. Rye.
Good evening, all. NASA Langley's 2018 art contest drew a record 831 entries from students across the United States, and we are proud that 2 of the nationwide winners are from Virginia Beach. Unfortunately, not with us tonight is Ocean Lakes High School's Alora Canup. She was the 9th grade winner for her fantastic artwork, which is on the screen. There you go.
Wow.
This is a back-to-back win for Alora, who won the 8th grade level last year and was also the nationwide grand prize runner-up. So congratulations and abstention to Alora. And this year, Virginia Beach Middle School's Anna Fox, who is with us tonight, was the first place winner for the 7th grade level and then was chosen as the grand prize winner from amongst all of the first place entries nationwide. Her digital artwork, Exhibit 2, is featured on NASA's website and will be on display at the Virginia Air and Space Center in Hampton. Please join me again in congratulating these 2 winners.
Next, the school board is proud to recognize the nation's Navy Junior ROTC 2018 National Champions. Please welcome Green Run's NJ ROTC cadets and instructors. Okay. Ryan Allspaw. Jacob Bradshaw. Curtis Bound Jr., Sierra Burnett, Lorenzo Burns, Abigail Cameron, Jamise Carrington, Jalissa Cohn, Eric Cowell, Jerwin Dela Cruz, Adrian De La Riva, Kawante Yule, Adriel Guzman, Megan Horton, Kylie Jenkins, Amina Jones, George Kahn, Kalia Karanka, Roy Latham, Brittany Lovick, Alexander Navarrete, Melvin Orencia, Francis Perez, Emmanuel Quarry, Shailene Robles, Candice Sturrod, Mason Tarkenton, Justin Tandilla, Gerard Tenorio, Taylor Turbide, Jeremiah Ewan-Javan, Kiara White, Ryan Williams, and Stephanie Yarrow. Instructors are First Sergeant Felix Robles and Commander Curtis Brown. For the second consecutive year, Green Run's NJROTC won first place at Nationals, which draws the top units from each of the 11 Navy areas to compete in the most comprehensive test of academic, athletic, and drill challenges. They earned the following 10 trophies: academics, armed exhibition, unarmed exhibition, overall athletics, overall drill, team curl-ups, team push-ups, 8 by 220-yard oval relay, 16 by 100-yard shuttle relay, and the overall championship. In addition, Cadet Amina Jones won 5th place in female curl-ups, Cadet Adriel Guzman won 2nd in individual male push-ups, and Cadet Alexander Navarrete won 2nd in academics. Green Run, yes, please. Green Run earned an automatic return trip to Nationals for winning in 2017. However, they also earned the right to compete by winning the Area 5 Championship, where schools in the Mid-Atlantic region compete. They have won Area 5 for the last 6 consecutive years. Wow. Please join me again in congratulating the nation's top NJROTC unit, the cadets from Green Run. Madam Chairman, this concludes our recognitions for this evening.
Awesome.
Usually they have upper body strength. Yeah, this way. Yeah. I mean, I just can't. Yeah, those are so sticky.
Especially if you're already
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it would be easier. Like
those are
yeah.
things you start
Right,
with.
right.
That's what I'm saying.
Those are hard.
Should be dry.
Dr. Spence, we look forward to hearing the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and good evening, members of the board. So here we are in the beginning of May, and I'm excited to share with you 5 great things you should know about Virginia Beach City Public Schools this month. Number 1, of course, is Teacher Appreciation Week. So I want to begin my report tonight by sharing my deepest thank you to the more than 5,000 teachers and, quite frankly, the more than 15,000 full and part-time staff that we have in Virginia Beach who make a difference for children every day. We are fortunate to have some of the most creative and innovative and inspiring men and women working in our classrooms and our schools each and every day. And I'm proud to work alongside this team of teachers. And I know the community will also join me this week in sharing their gratitude for our outstanding classroom leaders. And speaking of our outstanding teachers, I also do want to share that Old Donation School's Melissa Follen, who was named the 2019 Citywide Teacher of the Year. Melissa will be joining us in a few weeks for a special recognition, but I also wanted to highlight her achievement here tonight as well, so congratulations to Melissa. At number 2, let me also share my deep thanks and gratitude to our incredible school nurses who spend every day meeting the needs of our students. Tomorrow is National School Nurse Day, and we are proud to have a registered nurse in every one of our school buildings to ensure our children are receiving the best personal care possible and understanding the important role they have in maintaining a healthy lifestyle. I'd also ask you to stay tuned this week when our citywide Nurse of the Year will be named. And that surprise announcement is coming Thursday, and of course, we'll share that on vbschools.com and our social media channels. At 3, congratulations are in order for our Office of Custodial Services. We have been named as one of only 3 school divisions and 3 universities across the country to earn a 2018 Green Cleaning Award for schools and universities. This award is presented by the Green Cleaning Network, the Healthy Schools Campaign, and American School and University, and recognizes institutions that have exemplary green cleaning programs. Since 2006, our custodial services team has been working not only to identify the most sustainable and environmentally friendly cleaning products, but also incorporating best practices in their work and in their training. So again, congratulations to our custodial staff, and thank you for all of the work that you do in leading this division in the right direction. 4th, another great honor for the division. As you heard recently, for the 7th consecutive year, VBCPS has earned national recognition as one of the best communities for music education as designated by the National Association of Music Merchants Foundation. We are one of 583 school districts nationwide and one of only 14 school divisions in Virginia to earn this honor. And so again, congratulations to all of our music educators across the city and also to this board for its continuing commitment to the arts in Virginia Beach. And then finally, at number 5, I want to personally invite our community to Kellam High School next Tuesday, May 15th. That evening, we will be hosting 2 separate community meetings, one at 4:30 and one at 7, to get input and feedback from our students, parents, and community members about school safety and security measures in our school division. This feedback will be provided to the Blue Ribbon Panel on School Safety and Security as they are working this spring to provide our board with recommendations on how to best enhance the division's work. So if you're interested in attending, we do ask that you RSVP, as that will be limited to 500 total participants. And if you cannot be in attendance but would like to share your thoughts, you can also take part in an e-town hall we have set up for this topic. Links to both the RSVP and the e-town hall are available on vbschools.com. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. That completes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Spence. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on agenda items this evening?
Yes, ma'am, we do. Ginger Robinson.
Chairman Anderson, members of the school board, and Dr. Spence. My name is Ginger Robinson, and I am the library media specialist at Thalia Elementary and in my 23rd year working for the school system. I am also a product of Virginia Beach Schools, having attended Courthouse Elementary, Princess Anne Junior High, and Kellam High School. I've spoken for about 10 years now, I guess, to the school board about the non-resident tuition fees for employees. Thank you for allowing me to bring my children to Virginia Beach schools. For the new board members, I realize my situation is unique and by choice. However, living on the Currituck Outer Banks, I travel through Sandbridge to work most days. My daughter is in 11th grade and my son is in 9th grade at Kellam, and they both have gone to Virginia Beach schools since kindergarten from their grandparents' house. Tonight, for information, you will receive the proposed rates for the general fees schedule for 2018-2019. If the tuition fee rates are increased to the proposed amounts, we will be paying $9,020 for our 2 children. For perspective in tuition fees, we have paid $43,850 for my daughter to attend kindergarten through 11th grade, and $36,450 for my son in 9th grade to date. Tonight, I'm asking that you consider maintaining the current non-resident tuition rate for employees at $4,400 for secondary students, where the incidental fees such as AP exams, SAT registrations, dual enrollment course fees, and college application fees, just to name a few, are becoming more frequent and add up quickly in addition to the tuition fees. Maintaining the current tuition rate would be a greatly appreciated professional courtesy to those teachers and staff working for Virginia Beach City Public Schools. Thank you for your time, and I hope each of you will take this into consideration as you make your decision. Thank you.
Madam Chair, those are all the speakers I have signed up for the hearing on agenda items.
Thank you. The chair will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the April 24th meeting. The motion is made by Mrs. Riggs, seconded by Mrs. Holtz. The voting board is open. And it's noted that Mrs. McLeod has abstained. She was not here on the 24th, but the minutes have been approved. Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening. The motion is made by Mrs. Manning, seconded by Ms. Rye. The voting board is open. The agenda has been adopted. The consent agenda has one resolution this evening. Mr. McDonald, please read the resolution for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Whereas one of our nation's greatest strengths is its vast diversity, which enables Americans to see the world from many viewpoints, and whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are an integral part of our country's great mosaic of races, ethnicities, and religious groups, and whereas it is imperative for the good of our nation that schools continue to build awareness and understanding of the contributions made by Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and whereas through the study of these contributions, students will encounter role models whose commitments and achievements embody the American spirit and ideals, and whereas the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach, through its core values, emphasizes the importance of multicultural diversity education within our school division. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach officially recognizes the month of May as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and be it further resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach encourages all citizens to support and participate in various school activities during Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of this board.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Also on the consent agenda are the following: Kings Grant Elementary School floor finish replacement, the Strawbridge Elementary School gym HVAC, and Red Mill Elementary boiler and closed circuit cooler replacements, Lansdowne High School's running track renovations. And item C on the consent agenda is the religious exemption, which we received in our agenda packets. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mrs. Holtz has made the motion, seconded by Mrs. Melnick. Voting board is open. The consent agenda has been approved. The first item under action this evening is the personnel report. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the personnel report. Mrs. McLeod has made the motion, seconded by Mrs. Melnick. Is there discussion? Seeing none, the voting board is open. The personnel report has been approved. Item B under action is an adjustment to the school calendars for school year 2018-19 and school year 2019-2020. The chair will entertain a motion to approve these adjustments. Motion is made by Mrs. Riggs, seconded by Mrs. Weems. Is there discussion?
I was just going to suggest that for the benefit of the public, if we could state what those changes are.
Thank you.
Sure. There's a need for a minor adjustment to the 18-19 and 19-20 school calendars. As you'll recall, previous calendars have had 193 assigned days for instructional staff in the school calendar as part of their 200-day contract. The calendars approved in November had 192 assigned days, so the recommendation before you this evening is to add a flex day, the Thursday before the in-service week on both calendars, which you can see on the screen. In addition, we will also make sure to update the calendars this calendar document to reflect the virtual learning days as was discussed in the workshop.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the voting board is open.
Thank you.
Action item B has been approved. Action item C is a budget transfer. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the budget transfer. Motion is made by Mrs. Holtz, seconded by Mrs. Riggs. Is there discussion? Welcome, Mr. Honsiger. Do we have any discussion? Mr. Honsiger, would you like to clarify?
Chairwoman Anderson, Vice Chair. I'm losing my mind.
McDonald.
McDonald and school board members, Dr. Spence. These are related to year-end projections of what we project our balances will be at year-end. Part of these transfers move money to where we need to shore up those balances to make sure we don't overspend. We control the budget a lot tighter than we're required to by the city or the state, in that we really control it by unit code. I mean, that they could actually go in the red and we wouldn't violate anything, but we do control it down to that level. Just a couple of things. One of these transfers, and the transfers that we're talking about are those that are more than $250,000. That's beyond my delegated authority and the superintendent's, is to move money so it's more than $250,000 to cover the cost of transporting displaced students, homeless and displaced students. That's a federal statute of McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Probably we will spend in excess of $600 and something thousand this year. I think we reached a peak a year or two ago, and we spent about $800,000. So it's a necessary thing that we have to do, but it's one of the very most expensive things we have to do, because a lot of these are transported in cabs and sometimes in single school buses. Part of our initiative is to purchase more of the vans that we can transport students in, and that will help us with these costs. So basically that's it. The other one is about $500,000, a little bit more than that, to implement the buzz-in system. You've talked about that. That's one of our safety initiatives. Dr. Spence asked me to see if we couldn't find the money to do that so we could begin that this year. And so, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions, discussions? Thank you.
Just one thing to add into that. Farrell, I believe I'm correct here. We know that this cost is going up for the transportation of homeless students. We did add some dollars into the next year's operating budget so that we wouldn't have to necessarily make this transfer next year. But just to make you aware, these costs are constantly rising. They're required by federal law.
Thank you. So seeing no further discussion, the voting board is open. The budget transfer has been approved. The information part of our agenda is next, and item A includes the course proposals for the middle years program and a course offering for the Technical and Career Education Center. Mr. Pohl, welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Pohl, excuse me.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairwoman Anderson, Vice Chair McDonald, board members, and Dr. Spence. This evening, I'm bringing forward a course proposal for a semester language exploration course to meet the needs of the whole school expansion of the middle years program at Plaza Middle School. IB has a language requirement of a minimum of 50 hours per year for every student. Currently, with the exploratory classes offered across the division, students are only able to obtain 33 hours of instruction in language. Therefore, by adding a semester option for Plaza students each year, that would go more in depth in the language. We not only meet the minimum hour requirement for IB, we create a possibility for more students to enroll in year-long credit-bearing courses prior to leaving middle school. These courses would increase the rigor of learning fundamentals of language and encourage students to become multilingual and to learn about various cultures. The 3 exploring language courses will be structured as a continuum in a manner where the level of rigor will increase over the time. The course goals will remain the same for all 3 levels. Curriculum will identify appropriate objectives to teach at each level to ensure that students will continue to learn about the French and/or Spanish language, while ensuring the vertical articulation is aligned. Developing an understanding of various cultures will be at the core of this course. Students will explore cultures that speak the language they are learning and gain insight into the similarities and differences of their own culture. Of course, vocabulary development will be an aspect of the course throughout the 3 years. Communication is at the heart of all 3 courses, with a focus on listening, speaking, reading, writing, viewing, and presenting the language of the course. Literacy development will not only be relevant as students work to learn language, but will transcend into all aspects of a student's education. These courses will enable students to develop literacy skills through the use of a range of medias and modalities. These courses will foster curiosity, inquiry, and a lifelong interest in and enjoyment of the language learning. As you may recall from our presentation last year, students at Plaza Middle School have the opportunity to take 3 elective courses. Therefore, all students will be required to take at least a semester of language throughout their 3 years, each of their 3 years at Plaza. These courses will be taught by certified language teachers, and the curriculum development will be funded through the academy budget. Just want to say that's no cost to the board. Thank you for the opportunity to present these courses to you tonight. If you have any questions, the MYP coordinator, Ms. Susswind, the principal, Ms. Price, and I are prepared to answer them.
Ms. McLeod.
Thank you. I need some clarification here. I understand MYP now is school-wide, and that's part of your question, but are we still requiring our 6th graders to do the exploratory of language, not just go into a language?
So this will enable the students who are naturally going to Plaza Middle School to start as a 6th grader into a semester of language instead of a full year language. They are not required to take a first-year language as a 6th grader at this point. The MYP Academy students are required to. Right. But in order to fulfill the requirement of IB of the 50 hours, this would hopefully allow students who traditionally haven't maybe taken a first-year language by 7th or 8th grade to really involve them in the language and hopefully get them into a language before they leave middle school.
So it's to encourage more students to take a foreign language.
It is, and to meet the requirement of 50 hours of language instruction per year.
Okay.
For the IB.
So currently, 6th graders can take an exploratory year to learn and dabble in all the different languages and pick one they like. But can they, I know this is a little off topic, but can they just decide, I want to do Spanish as a 6th grader in Virginia Beach now? Or are we still doing this year of exploratory only?
So there are a few middle schools that have year-long languages at 6th grade. However, they all have the exploratory options, and then all middle schools in 7th grade, you can choose a language.
Thank you. I'm straight now. Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Mrs. Weems?
I kind of had the same questions. Yeah. I think it's great because I know of my 5, 4 did the traditional foreign language in high school, and that's about it. And then 1 started in 6th grade with foreign language and now is minoring in French. So I think it's just, the earlier, Dr. Cashwell, we can start this foreign language, even in elementary school, the better. So I think it's thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. Ready to move on?
Here we go. Good evening, Chairwoman Anderson, Vice Chair McDonald, and Dr. Spence, and board members. This evening, I'd like to again share with you another course, information regarding the proposed course for the Advanced Technology Center, IT and Cyber Fundamentals. IT and Cyber Fundamentals is a double-blocked, daily, year-long optional course proposed for launch at the ATC in the fall of 2018 for students interested in information technology and computer science. The course will enhance students' knowledge in various areas of cybersecurity and information technology while reinforcing the interdependency of concepts required for in-depth study in these fields. It can be taken as a standalone course or as an introduction before students continue their study of information technology, computer science, and cybersecurity, and future course sequences at the ATC. The course is designed to expose students to authentic security activities using technological applications, project-based learning, and experiential design. The proposed course will provide interested students with a multidisciplinary overview of information technology, computer science, and cybersecurity concepts. Throughout the year, students will explore various IT infrastructure components, including hardware, software, networks, and cloud computing. As their skill level increases, they will be exposed to software development methods for web-based and standalone applications as they develop and apply foundational programming skills to solve problems. In the realm of security, students will investigate vulnerabilities and industry best practices to minimize exposure. During this learning, the course introduces basic and fundamental risk management principles, giving students an opportunity to apply safe computing practices and methods for safeguarding information. This learning will prepare students to continue to pursue IT and cyber pathway courses at the ATC or at the college level. IT and cyber fundamentals will be available to students applying to programs at the ATC. Curriculum resources are provided by the CTE Resource Center in Richmond and locally by the Office of Technical and Career Education. The Advanced Technology Center is fortunate to have qualified staff in place to launch this course. The initial cost of $12,000 includes curriculum development, equipment purchases, and student materials, and these items have been accounted for in the ATC and TCE operational budgets. Therefore, no additional funding is required or requested for this proposal. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this information to the board, and I have Dr. Sarah Lockett, our Director of TCE, with me, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Comments? Ms. McLeod?
Thank you. This is a need, not just in the Hampton Roads area, but in the entire Commonwealth and, quite frankly, the nation. So we're going to really prepare a lot of students for the workforce, and this is well needed, or very much needed and appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald?
Thank you. Completely agree. This is a huge area of opportunity for employment for our students and a huge need in general. I know that, and I forget the exact name of the course. I know Mrs. Lavender at the ATC was teaching a very similar course. Is this a replacement to that? Is this an expansion of it? What's going on?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. It is an expansion. So a student could come in as a freshman or sophomore. This is just a year-long course. So it's not a match with the 1-2 year. Most of our programs are 2 years at the ATC. So they could gain an interest in it, or a student who comes in as a sophomore and takes Ms. Lavender's course for 2 years, then as a senior could go on and take this course in addition to it as well.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Thank you.
Next, under information, is the general fee schedule for fiscal year 2018-19. Mr. Honziker, welcome back.
Thank you. It's that time of year again.
It is.
And this year's passed really fast. If you recall, at the end of last year when we brought this subject up, the board asked us to look at revising the board policy. You will see in tonight's information recommendations from the policy committee recommending a policy revision to policy 3.22. And what that revision is basically revises the policy, and the effect of that is for employee-related non-resident tuition, the increases at the elementary and the secondary level will be the current year fee plus an inflation factor. It's a 12-month calculation of the average of the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. So it's a much less additional cost to any parents who are in this situation. The fee schedule there's 4 pages of it. We've indicated just in blue font those that were where we're recommending a change. I'll bring to your attention that meal prices we're going to hold steady and use this current year's rate. Part of the reason for that, we've gotten really no confirmation and direction from VDOE or the federal government regarding this. So we're going to hold our fees, meal prices to the current level. We've got a reasonable fund balance in the food service fund, so we'll be okay. Again, I've already mentioned the changes in the policy. Now, this is an information change that's going to come into you for under the information, and it will be on the action next time the board meets. And you can see, and Diane, can you just go to the last couple? Yeah. Go to one before that. Yeah. Well, it's the one that's got the the VP employees half-day kindergarten. Yeah. You can see the proposed increases are really minor. The calculation was adding 2.4%. That's the average of the last 12 months consumer price index. So those are primarily the changes, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Vast majority of all the fees remain the same as they are this year.
Mr. Edwards?
Can you shed any light on the safe drug assessment? We're reducing it.
Yeah, it's just that we experienced really a significant reduction in what the cost was.
Okay.
And so we're trying to reflect that projected cost.
There's a range, and
Yes.
it's dependent on the insurance coverage.
Yes.
Does that footnote apply to the new fees
It will
as well?
still, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Weems?
Yes, with the employees' children that attend our school, that last page, yeah. How many do we have now?
We have, I've got it. It's in the agenda cover. We have, there are 31 employee non-resident students in K through 17 in K through 5 and 14 in secondary.
I mean, I know this doesn't seem obviously that much of an addition, and you know, our speaker earlier has paid almost $80,000 to have her children come here, and so I would still ask the board to keep those at the same cost as last year, because I think it's just a benefit for our employees. I mean, they work here, and in this situation, it's impossible for this parent to be able to navigate her coming that distance to work here and getting her children somewhere else in school. And it's only 31, so to us, it's not much money at all. To them, it's still, you know, a few $100s extra. So I would hope that we would still maintain that fee as we did last year, just to give our employees that little extra benefit.
Any other comments? Thank you. Item C, under information, includes the Virginia School Board Association legislative proposals. Mr. McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. As our loyal audience may remember, VSBA does an all-call for legislative position proposals to school boards around the Commonwealth, and we have two that the Legislative Committee has been working on that we approved at our committee meeting today and presented to the board at the workshop. And so very briefly, I will review both of them. One was a proposal to try to increase student access to internships and apprenticeships by providing a tax credit for businesses that host high school juniors or seniors from high school, technical centers, or specialty schools as interns or apprentices in qualified field that aid students in completing CTE course requirements or in preparation for career certifications. We believe that tax incentive will open up more opportunities for internships and apprenticeships for students seeking those CTE course requirements or in preparation for career certifications. The second item is dealing with special education process and procedures, where we're seeking to improve the process to resolve special education disputes between school divisions and parents, which can lead to unnecessary and costly litigation. We're seeing that Virginia should take steps to streamline the special education administrative process with a focus on the shortest process and best outcome for children. Specifically, we would like the VSBA to support the use of state-approved trained IEP mediators to help resolve IEP disputes during the creation of students' IEPs, mandating mediation led by neutral third party prior to the initiation of any formal hearing, and requiring hearing officers to be trained to address special education disputes through mediation and other less formalized avenues. These items will be on the formal agenda for action at our next board meeting. If the school board were to approve them, they get sent to the VSBA Legislative Positions Committee, who will discuss and possibly approve for addition to their legislative positions document.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Do we have any discussion, questions? Thank you. Information item D includes several recommendations from the Policy Review Committee. Mrs. Linetti.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, school board members, and Dr. Spence, I'm Cami Linetti. On behalf of the Policy Review Committee, I'll be presenting the 5 policies that the Policy Review Committee is recommending for you at this time. As mentioned by Mr. Hansaker, Policy 322 has to do with the tuition fees, and the significant change in this one comes under non-resident employees, students. Again, it would read, for non-resident employees, students, the tuition will be calculated based on the current year's tuition fees plus annualized inflation rounded to the nearest $10 based on the most recent consumer price index as otherwise approved by the school board. That would be the significant change in this section. I think Mr. Hansaker has just explained that to you. The next policy would be 389. This is the general contract execution policy. We've been working both between the audit committee and the policy review committee. Spent a lot of time working on the contract policies. Mr. Hansaker, Mr. Beardsley, and Ms. Pate have all been working to update our contract review manual, our procurement procedures, and our contract policies. So we're in the process of getting some of those through, and you'll see more of those coming through in the next couple months on there. Significant to this section would be an area under subsection D would be D3. The change we're having here is when policies, contracts come down to a certain types of clauses are required to be reviewed by my office. Typically might offer reviews about 600 to 700 contracts a year, and we sign off for legal sufficiency. One of the things I'm looking at is, are you allowed to sign on this contract? There are certain things you are and aren't allowed to do. One of the significant areas that continues to be a problem for us has to do with indemnity clauses and your authority as a public body in Virginia. We're finding that many of the contracts we're having to deal with what they call click wrap, where you're going online and signing contracts. They're software contracts. They're very small contracts. They're fairly standard language on there, and these are things that I cannot generally sign off on because I'm going to hold this process up. After some discussion, what we decided was, well, if we run into a dispute with these type of contracts, what we would do was the department seeking to have a contract of this nature approved would then take it to the risk manager if my office had some concerns about it. If the risk manager determined that there was a limited amount of liability for it, they would go ahead and accept the risk for that. It would be something I wouldn't sign off. To do that, they need to change this policy because the policy requires that you have my sign off for certain policy, for certain kinds of conditions. This subsection and subsection D would allow this process for the risk management to take a look at the particular policies. That would be the significant change you would see in 389. Policy 5.1, we are starting to move into as our plan originally with policies, we've taken them by sections. We've recently finished section 5. There we've been working with section 4 in the last year or so. The next section we're moving into is students. Section 5 is all the student ones. There are going to be significant policies you're going to see. So the first one up we have for you is policy 5.1, having to the extent of school authority. There really are no significant changes. There are simply updates to the legal reference and some Scrivener's changes we've made it to update some of the language, particularly adding not just a parent but a guardian, so there are no significant changes recommended at this time. Policy 5-6 has to do with student, parent, guardian appeals. This is just an overall policy. Our actual appeal process is broken down to several subsections and to regulations that are not currently up before you. The changes to this really only have to do with some Scrivener changes, recognizing that parents and guardians are handling that. So there are no significant changes to that one. Because the Virginia General Assembly has put forth laws that require the school board to approve policies having to do with student discipline, they've also have a requirement that you approve regulations having to do with student discipline. So whereas you normally would not approve a regulation, there is a requirement by the General Assembly that you approve student disciplinary regulations that support policies. Regulation 5-6.1 is one of those regulations. This is the first regulation having to do with appeals and appeal processes. It's an overall regulation on this one. There are only some minor changes having to do with notification in there and some scrivener's changes having to do with that. There's nothing significant changing to that policy. That regulation, I'm sorry, will remain the same. Again, Regulation 5-6.2, a secondary regulation having to do with appeals is appeals and appeal processes for non-disciplinary matters. The first one dealt with overall appeals on this. This is non-disciplinary cases. If you're a student or a parent or legal guardian had a concern about a matter that was taken, how would you appeal that up? Again, the changes here are not particularly significant at this time. They're just clarifying some of the language. We're trying to be consistent with our language. There's scrivener changes there. It did go ahead and shorten the time period for our coordinator to investigate and write an appeal, where the coordinator had 10 days. Now we're asking them to do it in 5 days, so we'll expedite the process so families will get that information a little bit sooner. Other than that, the changes are simply scrivener in nature. Policy 558 has to do with student and staff and student wellness. We actually brought this policy to you last year. There were some changes that were required by the law. We realized that we missed a subsection in there that we needed to get. We thought we had all of it, and then realized we had to change a section on this. The significant change you're going to see is under subsection F under there. We needed to designate our school health advisory board as the school division's wellness committee to ensure that the board, and that board meets 4 times a year. This has to do with federal regulations that came out concerning student wellness on there. We had the regulation, the change in the regulation, we just simply didn't get it into the policy, so we put that in there. At this time, those would be all the recommendations to the policy review committee. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer that, or the committee members could assist.
Have any questions or discussion? Mrs. Weems?
Yeah, just to echo, I hope that we don't pass policy 322, tuition fees, because again, I mean, we're talking about such a small amount of money that we make off of our employees bringing their children to school, but to the employee, it's a significant amount. We're talking about 31 students. I don't know how many employees. Was that 31 employees or 31 students, Farrell? Okay, so I'm guessing 20 employees maybe, because I'm sure have multiple. So, you know, I just think that that's, in fact, I would even look to reduce it from what it already is. I know our friends at private schools have huge benefits for their employees and their children to attend their schools. So I think that we should offer that again to our employees. So I do not support passing this policy, so that we need to be able to look at it and change it when we want to. Thank you.
Mrs. Rye? Oh, sorry, Mr. McDonald. Mrs. Rye, then Mr. McDonald.
I defer to you.
Okay.
Thank you. For the last few years, I've been saying we needed a policy about non-resident employee students. Whether it's this policy, whether it's a policy that is a percentage discount, whether it's a policy that has static numbers or something, you know, we shouldn't have teachers like Mrs. Robinson think that they have to come to the board every year to ask us not to raise those prices. It shouldn't be something we decide year to year. We need a formal policy to manage that benefit.
Mrs. Rye?
So, excuse me, so I was just going to share that very few things in life come with a frozen price tag. And in all honesty, being familiar with districts in other states, Virginia Beach is extremely generous with the present policy. And so a small inflationary increase in the minds of the committee seemed quite reasonable. Just wanted to share the rationale.
Mrs. McLeod?
If I could ask, the increase, so I know that we're required to charge additional because it's out of the zone in the district, what have you.
You aren't technically required. 22.1-5 allows you to charge for.
Allows us to.
Which my ongoing concern, I'm talking this area, is
exactly
defining different groups. If you allow one group in, why are you not allowing another group in without tuition?
Exactly. And so I'm with Mr. McDonald, I think, coming up with a set fee because it doesn't really change. We don't have an abundance of folks doing this. And I think that I agree with you wholeheartedly. Let's come up with a set fee and not have to come up and go every year and just say this is part of our policy. It doesn't, the child coming to us doesn't cost us anything extra. What are the costs that are, okay, let's ask the question, what are the, because we're not overcrowded. We're under capacity at our schools. So the question is, what are the costs attributed with allowing a out-of-zone student who is a employee's child to attend?
Dante, correct me if I'm wrong on this one.
Okay.
You have to pick up the local costs, if I'm correct on there. The ADM would cover it, but I believe the local
Okay.
cost difference is what you get, because otherwise that money would be going to the locality where the student is a resident.
Okay, so it's trying to pick up the cost of the ADM.
I think that's the, if I'm saying this wrong, I think the
We get
ADM
the-
is
we get the
covered.
state
It's the
ADM.
difference between the ADM and what that the locality picks up.
We just don't get the local.
Yes, I believe
Okay,
that's.
okay, so that's good clarification. Yeah, so, all right, so we get the state funding, but we don't get the local funding. And so this is to try to supplement. I should really probably know this, but per student, what do we get from the city? Do we have is this comparison, this chart that we've used as a fee schedule, is it compare? Here comes my favorite CFO.
It varies every year because we get we typically get additional funds from the revenue sharing formula generates typically additional funds. So that per pupil amount will change every year. So it is to capture the local money, the local per pupil cost. There's a complex calculation that we have to go through to do that.
So $4,000 is what I saw up there. So is that approximately what we, as a general rule, is what we get from the city, or is actually the 4,000 a little bit
Well,
less?
It depends on the level,
I understand.
whether they're secondary, whether they're elementary.
Yeah. But in your number of years with us, do we get more from the city, generally speaking, than $3,000 or $4,000? To our point then is, do we need to go ahead and say it is significantly different?
It is different because you've held the line for the last 2
So
years.
long. Okay.
You have. So it is different. It's a couple $1,000s.
Okay.
difference.
That's what I was looking for. A couple $1,000s. That helps me understand better. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Edwards, had you planned to speak to this?
Well, the reason we go through this process is it's just, a few $1,000s. It's a few $1,000s times 30-some students. I'll ask Mr. Hunsicker a very basic question. Do 30 students cost the local taxpayers any amount of money?
Well, it
does. That's not fair. I mean, everybody knows they do. But we've got a responsibility to our own taxpayers, and the money we would not receive would then reduce our total program to some extent, albeit not large, but it would. And the question is a matter of trying to find that balance in terms of being fair to our taxpayers and being fair and as beneficial as we can be to our non-resident employees that I think we all appreciate.
Mrs. Melnick?
And I don't have the policy in front of me. Does it say at the end, unless the board directs otherwise?
Or is otherwise approved by the school board? And
So we
just
could do
discussed
this every year still. Keep the policy as is and just vote to freeze it for a year, correct? Okay, that's I just wanted to clarify that.
Right. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Linetti. Do we have any standing committee reports? Mrs. Rye?
So on behalf of my policy review colleagues, Mrs. Riggs and Mr. Edwards, a policy update from the past year. Since its inception in early 2016, the role of the PRC has been to advise the school board and superintendent concerning the need to amend, adopt, repeal, and/or merge policies. School board bylaws also fall under this purview. A present plan of action governs the order of these policy reviews by section. That said, both the administration and school board members can request consideration of any policy or bylaw review at any time. Also, the timing of some of our work is dictated by any legislation at the state or federal level that has school policy implications. Curriculum and personnel were the two focus sections in 2017. Included under curriculum were the following examples: school-sponsored travel revisions that also includes the addition of a new international travel policy, T&L instructional policies that now align with Virginia Standards of Learning and/or our Compass Strategic Plan, textbook instructional materials and course fee updates that reflect the reality of digital resources and online instruction, updated family life policy that is an offshoot of the redesigned family life curriculum, the updating of guidance and other student support services to reflect present-day reality. Chief of Teaching and Learning Dr. Amy Cashwell and Dr. Nicole DeVries represented T&L at many of these meetings. The personnel policies studied this past year have generated discussions concerning the full range of both the conditions and protections of employment. HR Chief John Mira and Directors Edie Rogan and Bernard Platt have been frequent attendees. We are beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel for this section. Student Section 5, as Ms. Linetti alluded to, has now begun in earnest. School attendance zone policy was updated last May, along with student and staff wellness. Class rank and new honor designations have kicked off this new round. In the miscellaneous category, we now have a policy mechanism in place to entertain public-private facility project proposals, as well as naming rights and other private sponsorship of interscholastic activity. A new policy was developed that provides a direct link to the overhauled internal audit charter. Committee review of multiple contract, procurement, and execution policies is ongoing. In the community relations arena, procedures for school distribution of outside communication have been clarified, and website accessibility for the impaired, a work in progress. Also, a concerted effort was made to merge all existing Citizen Advisory Committee policies under one umbrella document with a corresponding regulation that outlines a formal, uniform process for the recruitment, appointment, and retention of citizen members. We are witnessing the fruits of these efforts now with the receipt of our first round of applicants. Staff members who attended some combination of meetings involving these miscellaneous policies include our Executive Facilities Services Director, Tony Arnold, Purchasing Services Director, Kevin Beardsley, Media Chief Eileen Cox, Community Engagement Director, Amber Roch, Director of Student Leadership, Mike McGee, City Attorney, Dana Harmeyer, CFO, Farrell Hunziker. On the bylaws front, the school board approved a switch in our meeting schedule to avoid a conflict with formal city council meetings, an increase in the time limit for guest speakers, a new bylaw to address school board publications, expanded meeting decorum and order provisions, clarity on written legal opinions. Our committee's bylaw has been expanded to include Citizen Advisory Committee liaisons. It's no secret that certain policies, by their very nature, attract a higher degree of attention. Many lack the glamour or controversy that might otherwise garner more interest or reaction. Yet each and every policy impacts a particular someone or some group, and this PRC deliberates accordingly. We certainly have had our share of robust discussion, both from this dais and, yes, even at our committee meetings. We are a microcosm of the full board, and as such, do not always agree. We do consider the collective input of all stakeholders when preparing policy drafts for full board deliberation. In closing, we wish to acknowledge our 3 non-voting committee staff liaisons, Dr. Mark Bergen, Legal Counsel Cami Linetti, and Policy Coordinator John Sutton. The information and guidance they provide at every meeting and behind the scenes is invaluable and deeply appreciated. Thank you, Dr. Spence, for your intuition that saw the need for a policy review committee. And most importantly, thank you, school board colleagues, for supporting the work of this committee. Each and every one of you has an imprint on any number of the aforementioned policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rye. As the policy chairwoman, that was a fantastic report for the past year. You brought forward how much we really have accomplished throughout the past year. Thank you so much. Any other reports? Okay. Madam, that concludes our formal meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on non-agenda items this evening?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We have one, and we'll transition into that phase in just